Hey guys, Kevin is me, another classic movie for you guys. Now, this movie we're reviewing, I was gonna review this to you last year, but I started watching this movie last year, I didn't like it, and I stopped watching it. I never finished it, and I told myself I'm gonna finish it this year, and it's gonna be the last Spike Jonze movie that I review, and that's exactly what I did. So, that movie, of course, is the 1999 dramedy classic, fantasy dramedy classic, being John Malkovich. I've wanted to see this movie for so long, for a number of reasons, and I remember I started watching it, I just didn't really like it, but I didn't really look at movies the way I do now, and, after watching it a second time, I told myself, okay, I'm going to go into this with a clean slate and a fresh start, and I'm willing to give this a second chance. And after watching it, I love this movie. Being John Malkovich, I think, is a masterpiece for many different reasons. There's so much more to it than you think. And it's a movie where it seems very ridiculous, but it's just not. It's much more than that. Basically, let's get to the plot of Being John Malkovich, which I think is a fantastic plot. I love the plot of this movie. Basically, we focus on this guy, Craig Schwartz. He's a puppeteer. He's kind of lonely. His wife doesn't really have much interest in him. Lottie, she's much more interested in the pets that she has because they have millions and millions of pets. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. And basically, after getting this job as a clerk through Dr. Lester, he finds this strange floor called Floor 7.5, and that basically he develops his attraction to his coworker Maxine, who has now returned his affections, and he enters this small door hidden behind a filing cabinet and finds himself in the mind of John Malkovich. And basically, as he starts to tell his wife about it, she starts to become more and more obsessed with it, and basically, they eventually realize that this is something they can't stop, and that's basically a plot of Being John Malkovich, and I think that's really a great plot. I love the plot of this movie. There are many other things I love about this movie as well, but let's just get into the acting in this movie, because the acting, I think, is some of the best things about this movie. First of all the acting is phenomenal in this movie. John Cusack gives an amazing performance. He is incredible in this movie. He does such a great job. You know, loved his character, in this movie, definitely. I mean, Craig Schwartz is a very lonely guy. He's very lonely. No one really cares as much about him, and he kind of just, he has potential, but he's not very successful, with his job. He wants to be a lot more successful, and the way he kind of uses John Malkovich to do that, I think, is definitely very interesting. And one of the biggest deep messages of this movie is success, and definitely John Cusack's character represents that a lot, and I really did love that. But Cameron Diaz's Lottie, I think, is the real star of this movie, because once she gets involved, that is when this movie gets insane, and she did a fantastic job in this movie. I mean, you can tell that there's something going on with her. When she starts to go inside the mind of John Malkovich, she becomes more and more obsessed with it, like to the point where she wants to be John Malkovich, because she always thought of being a transgender, but she's just so scared to have that operation. And I think the character of her is just very fascinating. I love the character. It's probably Cameron Diaz's best performance by far. She really killed it, and she does a great job, as does Catherine Keener. She was also incredible, and the chemistry between these two is great, but also the chemistry between her and Craig. I mean, Craig has feelings for her, but she doesn't really see it, and there's a point in the movie where you're not, where it seems like they are together, but you're not sure if she's hiding it or not. I mean, it's very interesting stuff, and the ensemble overall is great. John Malkovich, I think, is probably the stand-up performance of this movie, though, because what John Malkovich had to do, first of all, he came up with this idea. Two, when he's John Malkovich, he is very funny when he doesn't realize what's going on, but then when you have the people inside of John Malkovich, he has to play a different character as himself. It's not easy to do, and I think he really pulled it off very well. I mean, you really do see the characters in John Malkovich. It seems ridiculous, but honestly, he really does a great job of making it work, and he did a really great job, I'd say. I mean, it was a really hard thing to pull off, and I don't think a lot of people could have, and he definitely did a great job. Orson Bean was really good as Dr. Lester. Charlie Sheen, oh my god, Charlie Sheen was hilarious in this movie. He did a great job, and the bonding between him and John Malkovich is great. Overall, everyone was fantastic. I don't really think anyone gave bad performance. I think everyone was just great overall. Now, the directing by Spike Jonze. This is by far Spike Jonze's best movie for many reasons. I mean, the tone of this movie seems like a comedy, but for whatever reason, you're not exactly laughing the whole time. You honestly are feeling bad for these characters. You're seeing the struggle that they're going through, and that's something I think Spike Jonze did a really great job with, was getting you to feel sympathy for these characters and showing you why you should care, and I thought that was definitely something I personally really enjoyed. He did a really great job with that, and his directing was great. The tone was really good. It was spot on, and plus, he did a great job with making the idea not too ridiculous, because it could have been way too ridiculous and just not believable, and he actually made it pretty believable. I definitely really love that, and I thought that was great. And the movie has so many hidden messages, and I'll get into that when we get to the screenplay, which is by far the best thing about this movie. I mean, Charlie Kaufman really wrote a fantastic screenplay, I have to say. The movie's hilarious at points. I mean, there are so many funny scenes in this movie. Any scene where John Malkovich has no idea what's going on. Of course, there's a classic scene where John Malkovich is inside his head and everyone is him. It's hilarious. It's just like Malkovich, Malkovich, Malkovich. There's that classic scene. It's hilarious. It's great to watch, and I thought that was definitely a very funny scene. That's something I definitely really enjoyed. So that's something right off the bat I thought was definitely very funny. The movie is definitely funny, but it also is very, very emotional, and there's so many hidden messages, and I'm going to get to what those are. This movie has a lot to say about obsession, definitely. It has a lot to say about what obsession can do to us, how it can take over our lives, and how obsessed we can get as human beings. I really think that's what this is trying to show. I mean, something as silly as just being someone else, they take it into something so much darker. Instead of just being someone else, it's getting to be someone else for a day. It's getting to change your lifestyle. It's getting to do something different, and I think that definitely is very interesting. It kind of puts you in that position of, how would you do this? You know, if you had this opportunity, would you change things? Would you only do it for a little while? Would you get as obsessed as these characters do? Because pretty much all of them get obsessed. I mean, first it's just Lottie. She's obsessed with the idea of being with Maxine and, trying to get with Maxine. But then you have the character of Craig, because the movie I also think is about loneliness and depression, because he's probably in the worst position in the entire movie. I mean, he started this, relation with Maxine that she didn't like, and then she liked Lottie. One day they just meet up, they love each other, and basically they kind of start in this relationship, and Craig kind of finds himself caught up in something he can't stop, and it's kind of all his fault. And there's a great part of the movie where Craig gets into the head of John Malkovich, and you start to see some chemistry between him and Maxine. He starts to become obsessed with John Malkovich, with becoming John Malkovich as well, changing his lifestyle around, doing things differently. He just loves the idea of doing that. And of course, there's there's scene, of course, where John Malkovich, is now a puppeteer. Like, Craig wants to be successful. It's everything Craig wants to be, and success, I think, is another big idea of this, is Craig wanting to be successful, and because he's not successful in real life, and he wants that success, and I think John Malkovich is what gives him that success, and I think that definitely is very interesting. The movie also is a lot about depression, too, because there's a lot of depressing themes in this movie. Definitely the movie can get very depressing at times. The movie ended in a very depressing way, I have to say. The ending of this movie, very depressing, but I thought was very satisfying. I don't really think I could have thought of a better way for this movie to end. Very depressing stuff, but I personally really love that. It's something I thought was very well done. The score to this movie is beautiful. The score by Carter Burwell is fantastic, and the cinematography is just gorgeous to look at. It is a bit dated, I will say that, but they do a good job in making it look real. They make it seem like there actually is this portal that can go into John Malkovich's mind, and I like how they took the movie to a level where you could take it seriously, and that even though, the more ridiculous it got, actually the more interesting it gets, because you can tell that things are going to get ridiculous. You can tell that things are going to get very crazy very fast, and they did a really great job with portraying that in this movie. That's something I thought was definitely very well done, was the way it was handled. That was something I definitely really enjoyed, and I don't really think there's a better way they could have handled it, honestly. I don't think there was. That's something I was very impressed with by this movie, was the way they handled all that stuff. I definitely really did love that, I have to say. And then the editing as well, I thought was really great. The movie really flew by for me. It went by really quickly, definitely. I was really into it the whole time. There was never a point where I wasn't into this movie, I have to say. I was pretty much into it the entire time, and I loved it. So overall, guys, Being John Malkovich is a fantastic movie. I highly recommend you guys check it out. It's a great movie. It's one of my favorite classic movies by far. 5 out of 5 or an A+. I was so surprised by this movie. It's so much deeper than you think it is. I definitely would like to do a in-depth analysis or something on this movie to talk more about and get you guys, to understand more what I'm trying to say, because I don't know how else to explain it, but whatever. That's basically my review. I hope you guys enjoyed them. If you guys saw this movie, you have seen it. I absolutely love this movie. And we'll see you guys in the next video, which will be for another classic movie review, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.